receiving your content. Receiving your content. Cool, I think we're good. All right. Still getting a good amount of dropped frames, but maybe it's not a problem. I think I'm done troubleshooting this. I'm not going to do it anymore. Okay, cool. So I just want to show a couple projects that I'm working on right now and what I plan to do with them in the future. I'm just realizing I do not share what I do very much, and so I think this year I'm going to attempt to share as much as possible and get over kind of sharing related hangups that mostly have to do with, hey, is what I'm doing useful, and also with, hey, am I just adding to the perpetual noise of the internet universe? But I will attempt to keep it quick. So the first thing I want to do is open up Touchdesigner, of course, and I want to open two Touchdesigners. So I went over this last time, but what you do is you type in terminal on a Mac, you type open -n, and what that allows you to do is open an instance. So if I go into applications and drag down this, then it will open a second copy of it. I could actually have it just open the file that I'm working on, but I don't know. So I'm going to open up two files to show. The first is my clock file. This is something I've been working on the side. I recently got obsessed with it. The idea is, as soon as it opens up, I will show. But the idea is to make a clock that works no matter where you are in the world viewing it. I think I'm getting some drop frames, but not too much. So yeah, that was the idea. I'm going to open up my second project too, which is something that I will eventually combine, which is a chimes. It's like a clock, but with chimes. So I've got a clock, and then I've got a chime scene, which really should be the same thing. So this is my absolutely terrible organization of my clock, but let's just see what it looks like right now. That is a bad representation of it. It's actually more like this guy. Here it is. So what is the idea behind this thing? And does it work? So the whole idea was that I really want to make a clock that people can see anywhere in the world, and the time will be accurate. And it really originally began with me just wanting to make a clock and having the idea of streaming it so that someone who doesn't have a clock in their space could turn on a stream and have a clock that would just be sitting on their wall. And a lot of people have excess screens and computers and screens that aren't being used a lot. So it seems like making it a stream is something that would make it really accessible, which I like. I like the idea that anyone anywhere could see this. Another thing I think about is about how the clocks that we use on our cell phones are actually, they're great clocks, but they're very distracting, you know? As soon as you look at your phone, you're reminded of 1,000 different things. So for me, something like this is a way of showing the time, but also not being distracted, not getting sucked into something. So the way I designed it was, I basically, instead of using a 12-hour clock face, I wanted something that could show all the time zones. And of course, I didn't know this, but there are 24 time zones in the world, which makes sense. Obviously, time is a continuum, and they're really just offsets from each other. So I had the idea of taking what is the south polar projection of the Earth and insetting it on the inside of a 24-hour clock. And what that means is that you can take each of these red lines, which is a time zone boundary, and that is a time. So basically this entire center part rotates clockwise, and you can tell what time of the world it is anywhere in the world. So let's do a couple examples. First is London. So London actually falls on this gray line, which is the prime meridian. and this is the anti-meridian, the 180 degree. But the time zone starts at the end of the time change starts at the end of the time zone. The prime meridian goes through London, but but that's in the center of the time zone. So on the far right side of the time zone is this. And so we know right now in London it is 15 minutes to 20 o'clock, which is 8. So it's 15 minutes to 8. Where else could we go? New York. New York, it is 15 minutes to 3. That's interesting. Vancouver, where am I? I've got some design stuff I got to figure out here. As you can see, Los Angeles is floating down here. Vancouver is 15 minutes to 12. That's actually true. I should be at the studio right now. So yeah, I was really pleased about how it turned out. And it works. Also, I've got like the month on the outside, got the minute right here, and the seconds. My cats are going absolutely nuts. Okay, so let me just show you how I've set up the project then. So, it's extremely messy, and I actually probably should just toss a lot of it, and that's actually what I hope to be doing right now on stream, is just getting rid of a bunch. So, for example, this is a whole section of particles that I didn't even use. And so I just want to show, let me just show you one way that I like to do this, which is, right now, I've got a whole network here that doesn't really do anything. In fact, I need to get rid of all this stuff. But I want to keep it, because I kind of like what's happening. I know we can't see it, but what it is it's a particle system that has a texture on it. So if I increase it, you can see textures that are almost like raindrops. I like this, so I'm just going to pack it up in a nice way and get rid of it. So what you can do is you can just shift select the whole group like this, and then right click and do collapse selected, and that creates a little node out of it. I'll name this raindrop particles, and then here, if you don't use this, it's really good. It's in the My Components tab. You have a whole bunch of, you can create your own folders. I'm going to create a folder here, call it scraps, and then I will change this comp type to a geometry comp. That way it can just be dropped into a 3D scene. It's showing the camera right now, probably because the camera is visible. It's displayed. There we go. And now I'm just going to pull it into scraps here, like that. Check that it's there, and then get rid of it. Do we get any frame rate back from that? We do not. That's right. Okay, now let's go and see where it's all messed up. So I've got a bunch of things here. I've got a comp. I was doing feedback on it, but I think I'm just going to toss that. I want to make this as fast as possible. I've got a bunch of comps here. I'm not really sure what they're doing. I've got a couple streams that come out of here. One of them is this, which is a little atomic kind of clock. Let's see, what is this guy here? It's probably a better way to see this. It's just the center part of it, and then I have the actual clock there. So I'm just going to get rid of everything I can. That constant's not necessary. Move that comp. There's a null, it's not necessary. This here is actually me bringing in video from another file. In fact, from the chimes scene. I've got a little particle simulation that explodes every minute or so. And then here's where I send it out to the stream, because eventually I stream this whole clock. But I'm just going to get rid of some of these things. So obviously I've got 2 of these. Anytime we're drawing something, it's dropping our frame rate. So each of these little windows here is kind of screwing things up. So I'm just going to select them all by Command A and then turn off the viewer. And we'll see my frame rate goes from 15 to 16. It's really not that impressive. Okay, but let me just make sure that we're recording audio. That'd be funny. It wouldn't be the first time I've spoken to myself. No, we're good. Okay. So now that we've kind of taken care of this highest level stuff, I mean, this is just siphon out. In fact, this stuff isn't even really necessary, I don't think. Well, it won't be necessary in the future. I'm just going to get rid of a bunch of these. Let's go into the actual clock. So, another mess. And let's drill down at this. Right now, if I just turn everything on, it's probably going to be very slow. First thing I want to do is get rid of things that aren't used at all. So And I don't think everyone works like this. I do. I really like to get really involved and just try things out and mess up and then turn things off, turn things on. So I generate a lot of trash. And we can see the trash immediately because it's not connected to anything. If there was some sort of variable link or something like that, there would be a dotted line. So just going to get rid of the stuff that is not necessary right off the bat. Things like this, I'll take a look inside. This is actually an audio, a little audio component that I made before that will be replaced by one of my other files. I'll take that, put it in the scraps, get rid of it. Let's trace it back from where we are. So ouch, that's one of the outputs. Aha, this is my little atomic clock guy. I want to keep that. I'm not sure actually. One guy I could definitely get rid of is that guy. Let's see. Got a light. Okay, so everything on the left here, this is all geometry. And some of the geometry appears to be empty. There you go. This used to be where my clock hands were. But my goal is to make like a clock hand component or something, so let's get rid of that. Get rid of the things that are rendering it. This isn't necessary anymore. And actually what I should be doing is I'm pressing U to get out of here. I should be viewing, well, I should actually be viewing this guy, just to make sure when I get rid of stuff I'm not breaking anything. Which is fine. Okay, so everything appears to still be working. Let's separate this. This is all. There's three things going on here. One is this random this random guy here. Let's get rid of these. They're not connected. There's two major things going on here. One is kind of a 3D scene, and the other is a bunch of video output. So I want to separate these and make them organized. So I like to take anything that's geometry, and I know this is geometry because I worked on it, and put it off to one side. And then I want to put anything that's light up at the top, and then any cameras in their own little section, like that. Oops. You can see this is a material that's applied to it. And then let's just, I could actually do this. I could select the whole thing, right click, layout selected. And then it's done it in kind of an organized manner. Okay, now we can kind of take a look at things and see it in a kind of simple light. So, what do we got? Interestingly, I don't remember doing this, but I am rendering it and then I'm compositing it over a black square. I'm not sure why that's necessary. It doesn't seem to have changed anything. Maybe in the past I was doing something with where it needed to block something behind it. Okay, so here's our second output here, and that's just taking this. It's the atomic number or atomic element, and it's outputting it. Kind of leave that alone. Let's take a look at this guy here. So this is this whole output here, and it looks like what I'm doing is I'm adding a bit of a glow. Just gonna view this. It's a really subtle glow if it is. So it looks like as I'm taking this, I'm putting it on top of black like this. I'm just gonna get rid of that because I don't really want it. And then I'm blurring it and then adding it back onto itself. So if I were to increase the blur on this, hit P, increase the filter size, we should see more of a glow. Look at that. And I get it, it kind of works to anti-alias the text a little bit, but I imagine that the aliasing problem has to do with my text top. So I'll get rid of that too. So now we just have a transform. Transform is probably just bringing this down. It is. I'm pushing it out. Feedback loop. This is another comp. I'm taking, oh, here we go. So I've taken the text and I've comped it with the molecule, the atomic structure. Man, I'm being quite lazy with my descriptions this morning. I apologize. Okay. Transform. All right. So now we've got a bit better of a look here. So this render here is rendering this camera because this camera is offsetting. Basically, we have two different scenes going on here. We've got this scene, which is the camera rendering the clock face. And then we have this scene, which is the electrons being, or the molecular structure being rendered. They're both using cameras that are both constrained to this, which is a null, which allows me to control both cameras at once. And then both scenes are being lit by the same lights, though I'm suspicious that those lights are even doing anything. Got that out. And then, let's see. Transform. Okay, so this is making a lot more sense now. Doing a feedback loop, compositing. This is an out. I think this is the out that comes out here. I'm not even using those really anymore. I just want to make this as clean as possible, so I'm going to get rid of the outs. I'm going to keep this one. In fact, I could color it because that's the most important one that goes out. This is another important one. This one goes to my stream because I use siphon to stream. And there's lots of better ways we can do this. But this, you know, the compositing part of it isn't really what I'm mostly interested in. I'm going to get rid of these two. I think what I was doing before is I had the atomic element right here in the center. This is all... This is not really what I wanted to get into today. What I want to get into is what happens here. And this is the actual clock. This is the mess that is... Oops. The mess that is the clock face. And there's a bunch of stuff going on. As you can see, it's really slow. And this is one reason I want to clean it up quite a bit. And it's really confusing to work with. I mean, I've had to turn off all the images here, the viewers, so that I could even run this scene. But it's made it kind of impossible to work with. And I put labels in places, but they're kind of fucked up. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to tear out the old things, I'm going to label things, and I'm going to feel better. So let's be merciless, shall we? Oh, I think my computer just froze. Huh. Computer froze.